Hello and welcome. I am here in Assassin's Creed Odyssey with the release of Christopher Nolan's film version of the Odyssey. Seemed like should hop back in and check out this game. Odyssey is probably my favorite game in the series. Just love the Greek world that they've built. It's huge and expansive. Looks fantastic. I feel like the underlying RPG-ish mechanics work in this one. But a really incredible world, and that's kind of what I've planned for today, is just exploring some of the map. Plan to spend probably a lot of that at sea. I think that's some of the best ambiance in the game. Have a look where we're at. We're currently down here. Just kind of behind Sparta in Laconia. And I have this expanse of the map that I haven't really filled in, and I kind of want to do that. And then maybe we'll head out to sea. Might check out some of the cities, but kind of focus more on just checking things out. I do have a video from Assassin's Creed Odyssey on my main channel, a monotonic ASMR, which was a sea journey kind of around the water part of the map and reading from the Odyssey. It's kind of experimental. There's 2 readings, 1 in each ear. I also have a sequential version, if that's too trippy for you. I'll post links to those. This also is just going to be wandering around, but without that narrative focus. We'll just check out some of the map, and not going to be focused on fighting or trying to advance gameplay. Just more exploration, and I talk some about the story of the Odyssey. I think most people are familiar with it, but this seems like a good chance to talk a little bit about that. Just climbing up this mountain here. Here we go. There are some ruins up on top of this mount. So, without realizing it, I think this is from the beginning of the game, based on what she just said. Yeah, just climbed up here to check it out, but I guess kind of an important spot. Quite the vista here. Foot over the edge, be careful there. Have a rainy, misty day. Very cool. And got that kind of stone archway here. Let's perhaps climb up that just to get to the highest point here. Check it out. Oh, and I'm climbing this. Let's go over here and climb this one. it's great that there's so much freedom and where you can climb in the Odyssey. Just well done. Alright. We're really up here. Looks like that ridge might be higher. A few spots of blue sky peeking through there. So we survey the world here of ancient Greece. Looking over towards Sparta there. Alright. So let's keep going on exploration of those ridges. Alright, let's go for it. Wandering the lands here. Oh, some snow-capped peaks over here. Again, the alpine regions of this map, I guess. Loot. Fantastic. Alright, just climbing up here. View along the range here. Our way up through this broken stone, some snow. Maybe not the typical view of ancient Greece. Alright, get to the summit here and have a look around. Very cool. Let's just grab a quick shot here. Alright, we'll look at the map again. Okay, doing pretty well here. Just cut along this edge. Maybe not head over to Messenia for now. It'll be a long way down here. Clamber down the rocks. Just climbing down. There we go. Slide a little. Okay. I will say, for whatever reason, I think it's just the scale of the actual world versus how I imagine it to be on a map. I always kind of judge the distance wrong, looking at the map and then mapping that back into the game world. just can't quite get the mapping right. Not a big deal. Just I end up looking at the map a lot more and to figure out where exactly I'm going. Alright, we're just wandering around over here, some wildlife. We're just gonna cut along the edge of this mountain here down towards the tip of the peninsula. We got a bear over there. There's some ships out on the sea. Just a beautiful landscape. Like another bear down there. Alright. Just getting some exercise, a good jog here. Yeah, Odyssey, of course, quite a journey. Mere 10-year saga, trying to get home for Odysseus. Alright, so yeah, just kind of wanted to see what was over here. Of course, sailed around these areas in the ship, but hadn't been boots on the ground in this part of the map. So good ways to go out onto the peninsula. Just making our way here. Beautiful ocean. Is it purpley? Is it going towards a wine dark sea there? Classic Homerian descriptor. And get a little sandy beach down here. There's a little boat there. Gorgeous sunset vibes. I dig it. Alright. Just making our way here. We'll run on the beach. Scare some birds. Okay. Glorious. Okay. The scale of the map really is impressive. Definitely feels necessary getting this representation of Greece. And I'm getting attacked by a bear. Run away. Run away. Still chasing me. Hopefully I don't get eaten by a bear and cut this video short. It's the kind of thing that would happen, though. It's a tough world out there. Alright, getting in plenty of exercise. Beautiful sunset. Alright. So we've made our way down here, kind of filled in this edge of the map. Let's see about returning to our vessel. It's hanging out by Kefalonia. So let's head back over this ridge, get to one of our travel points, and be on our way. So Odysseus, famous for coming up with the Trojan horse ruse that ultimately won the Battle of Troy for the Greeks. The Trojan suckers wheeled that horse in, and that did it. But once they were victorious, Odysseus decided he would get on the road and get back to his wife back in Ithaca. Of course, Ithaca, Greece, not Ithaca, New York. We gotta run up this coastline to get to one of our little points. Cool little beach area down there. But it would take Odysseus some 10 years to get back and be able to be with his wife again and his son, Telemachus. Have to pardon pronunciation of Greek names and places. Almost there. A little swim here real fast to cool off after all that running. And let's head for the Adrestia. So we are on board our ship now, back at sea on the Adrestia. The sun low in the sky over there. A moody day here on board our vessel. We are just north of Kefalonia. You can see that prominent statue as a landmark there. Let's take a look at our map. Alright, so you can see we're in the northwest corner of the map. And we could skirt along this coast, maybe check out Megaris. You can definitely see there's areas I haven't really explored yet, like we were filling in on foot. But I want to focus on the sea, do a long loop around the southern tip of Greece here, maybe work our way back up through the islands around the map. This is really, I think, about the ambiance of sailing on this map, which I think is quite special. We'll head up to Macedonia, check that out. Suppose it might be nice to stop in Athens, but kind of just see how it goes. Yeah, just about sailing around and enjoying our time on the water, and perhaps reflecting a bit on the journeys of Odysseus. So let's get back in and get underway here. I said the sun low in the sky. It's the moon. Classic mistake. But let's cut down through the channel here between these two islands. Oarsmen are propelling us. Talk a little bit about that in a second. Need to navigate this channel. A big statue up on the bluff there. And I made another video about the Odyssey in Assassin's Creed Odyssey here, where I was actually doing some reading. It's pretty trippy. You're looking something a little more hypnotic, with some ambiance and some kind of dual ear, reading in each ear, stuff going on. It's worth checking out. But in that video, I went around the map in the other direction, kind of treating this as the voyage home. Kefalonia is kind of where the Assassin's Creed Odyssey story kicks off. But we'll be going the other way around the map this time. It's such an expansive map. Makes for a nice, good long sea journey. Some stars up in the sky there. See the lights of a little village there, torches burning, and across the way there as well. I love the night ambiance, imagining being at sea and seeing those little, there's a big whale, seeing those little pockets of life and civilization, in what would have been a much more wild and forbidding world. we'll loop around the end of the island here and make our way around this point so we can head south. Whoa, we are being attacked. That is not cool. Get up to speed here and really put on a true display of cowardice and run from that battle. Come on guys, we're just out trying to have a good time. Go for a little cruise on the ocean. Not out to get in fights. To try to dodge these vessels here. To avoid more fights or damage. They're gonna come at us probably, yeah. Another village along the coast there. Stirred up some seabirds. Mountains to the north, which I think in this game Olympus is up that way. If I remember correctly, maybe I don't. Got a fort up on that hill there. Good view of the coast for defensive purposes. Alright, we've cleared that skirmish. We bravely turned our tail and fled. Bravely bold Cassandra. So, on the subject of ship combat, I looked up some info about Greek ships of this period out of curiosity. Did a little research. Have a look at our ship here under sail. And they were galleys. So they were both rowed using manpower and had sails to utilize a wind power, as we're doing at the moment. Most commonly triremes, meaning 3 banks of oars, and I think that's what we're working with here. About 100 some feet long and crew of about 200 and 100 and we got some assassin's armor from our looting. So we passed down to the south here. There's that mountain range we were looking at when we were exploring on foot. But 170 of that crew would have been rowers, and then about 15 Marines, soldiers who actually did any fighting, like a boarding type scenario, and then 15 sailors, men whose job it was to see to the safe handling of the ship. I know as a Greek captain of one of these triremes that the safety of the passengers would have been the highest priority. You can see the ram on the front as the primary means of dealing out damage in combat. More missile weapons came later. And so you try to ram the other vessel, wreck their hull, sink them. I feel like we need a Greek version of Battleship. Hey, you sunk my trireme. But another technique was to But another technique was to aim your ship alongside the other vessel and use that ram to break their oars, thus incapacitating them and making for easier pickings in that fight. So these were larger than the ships in Odysseus's time. Those would have been smaller with a crew of about 50. And they were less protected, and so they would tend to go ashore at night rather than remaining out on the sea. Sam in winter tended to stay ashore rather than braving the weather. So a little bit about Greek ships, just some stuff I looked up. I did read they did do some modern recreations of these and tested out some of the theories and stuff they'd been able to piece together and get some more insight into how they were run, which is pretty cool. Alright, so we're looping around the southern tip here. Just cut into this bay for a minute while we're tootling around. Have a look at our map here. Yeah, so Kythera Island. It's just to the south here. We're going to go through this passage. Just kind of poking into Laconia here. We came down the tip of this peninsula when we were running around. But Odysseus came to fame the Trojan War. The Greeks had gone trying to sack Troy without success for many years. And finally Odysseus came up with a plan to build a large wooden horse, put Greek soldiers inside, and hope that the Trojans would take it into their walls. The Trojan horse, which worked because we're all desperately hoping someone will gift us a gigantic wooden horse, which worked because we're all desperately hoping to be gifted a large wooden horse. The Trojans did take it into their city, and the Greeks popped out, opened the gates, and were able to conclude the Trojan War. Odysseus, the man with a plan. This, of course, gave rise to the phrase, beware of Greeks bearing gifts. Gifts, not gifts. Which I think has kind of done Greeks harshly ever since, because attempts at generosity and gift giving have been greeted with such suspicion ever since. You can see we're just north of Kythera Island, pointed over towards Masara. We'll kind of make our way across that gap. A few coastal vessels bumming about here. So after the war, Odysseus thought he would head home to his wife Penelope and son Telemachus. I have to apologize for my pronunciation. Thought that was one of the cool things about this game was I feel like they got people who do the proper pronunciation a lot of these words. The first time a lot of us had heard that. Getting a nice little sunrise here. But Odysseus thought he would make his way home hopped on board a ship and set out, and it ended up taking him some 10 years. All kinds of trials and tribulations along the way. Not all of that time was at sea. He had some periods in residence on some islands with his crew or on his own. Managed to piss off some gods who were much more actively involved in the world back then, who made life difficult for him. But some also helped him, partly due to the various rivalries among the gods. Nice kind of fiery sunrise this morning, that's cool. Get some beautiful colors on the water. Trying to get that classic wine dark sea action going on here. Yeah, famous metaphor of Homer. Alright, kind of cruising the southern edge of Masara here. Really beautiful. So Odysseus set out and first encountered the lotus eaters on an island. Goodness, having to dodge again here. I forget what all the various factions are and their different sail colors, but we'll again flee from that altercation. Beautiful sun on the water here. So Odysseus first stopped the land of the lotus eaters, and eating the lotus could make you forget all about your past, so his crew indulged, and it fell upon Odysseus to have to kind of force them back onto the ship and continue their journey. Really beautiful morning here. Love it. Gonna take a quick photo. And so they next went to the land where they encountered the Cyclops, or the Cyclopes. It was a race of one-eyed giants. And Odysseus and his men had run in with one of them in particular, Polyphemus. And he was a sheep herder. Just a guy minding his own business, really. And he ended up trapping Odysseus and his men in his cave. He feasted on some of them. And there was a little bit of mischief from Odysseus required to get them out of there. Cyclops wanted to know his name, and Odysseus told him it was nobody, which was hella confusing. And then the way they kind of got away, Odysseus blinded him with a stake, and I think they kind of strapped themselves to the sheep, or pretended to be sheep to make their escape without him realizing. The tricky part about identifying as nobody was that when Odysseus was blinding the Cyclops, the Cyclops called out to his brethren saying, "Nobody is killing me," and they Just figured he was drunk or loopy or something. Didn't realize what was going on. In the aftermath of this, it created some problems though, because Polyphemus was the son of Poseidon, god of the sea, who we hope will be honoring our journey today on the ocean. And having angered Poseidon, Poseidon caused some problems for Odysseus as the journey went on. Let's check our bearings here. Alright, so we're out toward the eastern edge of the map now. Need to swing back to the north, or maybe we'll cut in through these islands here, past Naxos perhaps. Here's Mykonos, Samos. Let's make a little course correction here. Alright, we'll cut up through the gap between these two islands up ahead of us. Would certainly love to be sailing the Greek islands. Sounds like an amazing vacation. Love to visit the old Greek archaeological sites and take in some of this beautiful sun and water. Docking spot there. Interesting structures there up on the cliffs. Check out some of these islands I haven't visited later. Niceros, I guess. And then we'll kind of turn a little bit back towards the north here. So next, Odysseus ran into Aeolus, who is the god of the winds. There's still a wind named for him today. And he gave Odysseus a bag of winds, which whether that was a whoopee cushion or a functional tool, I'm not sure. And I think the intent was Odysseus could use it to help get himself home. But his men were overly curious and just couldn't resist opening the bag, even though Odysseus had given them specific orders not to do so. And when they opened the bag, let out the winds, which blew them way off course. Of course. So definitely added more chaos to the voyage. Blew them to the land of the Laestrygonians. And they ended up destroying the ships of Odysseus. But then the remaining ships ended up the island of Circe. And hey, there's a whale. Sperm whale there. Could really use a good Moby Dick simulator. I'd be all for that. Check our map here. So we're maybe getting blown off course ourselves. Yeah, let's kind of cut back through here and up past Mykonos. Let's get turned around. But Circe was a sorcerer. She turned Odysseus' men into pigs. Definitely problematic. Odysseus dodged this, I think due to divine intervention from Apollo. Alright, so loop around this guy and we'll point towards the island and then make our way up past it. Hermes, rather, gave Odysseus the secret he could eat a particular plant and that would protect him from Circe's magic. So Circe, frustrated that Odysseus didn't succumb, I got her to turn his men from pigs back into men. You know, who were probably still pigs. I don't know. I guess I didn't know them. But certainly guys who couldn't stop from opening a bag of wins. But I've, of course, gotten myself turned around, and here we are at Samos. So we can cut along the coast of this here. Beautiful. Alright, so cruising past Samos, there's Mykonos. Cruising past Samos, there's Mykonos. So again, turn sharply here. Yep. Another battle. Let's row. Folks, let's row. Let's get out of here. Okay, and the vessel is on fire. That is not ideal. But I think we're okay now. Alright. So Circe did suggest that Odysseus should visit the underworld. And I forget where there's a volcano here related to Hephaestus. Feels like kind of brink of the underworld in this game. Unless I'm delusional and completely imagine that. Be kind of cool to check out, but I forget where it is. But Odysseus took her advice and went to the underworld. I think was a pretty harrowing experience. But he met with his mother, Anticlea, and she told him about the situation on the home front, where in his absence all these dudes had shown up and were trying to hook up with his wife to get her to marry them, saying that surely he was dead and gone. Definitely kind of sucks, but I've had a business trip or two that's ended up like that. Cool statue on that little island. So this concerned Odysseus a great deal, so he'd already been much delayed, but now had even more reason to try to get home as soon as possible. He also met Hercules, while he was there, but overall it was a pretty upsetting experience, and he wanted to get back on the road. Crazy places like Greece and Egypt that even some of the times we think of as ancient, they already had ancient ruins. Check the map here. Alright, so we're out on the eastern edge here. There's some stuff I haven't explored around the Isle of Lesbos, and I probably didn't mean for that to to sound the way it did. So maybe we'll cut up into some of this unexplored territory and maybe loop back towards Macedonia. I have one mega peeve about the Assassin's Creed maps. They just need a full zoom out. It drives me nuts that you have a pretty limited zoom view on the map. Alright. So, Odysseus had a couple of challenges to face by some of the more famous little events from the Odyssey. They had to get past the sirens, who were these women who sang these beautiful, enchanting songs that sailors couldn't resist, and the sirens would draw them onto the rocks where they'd be wrecked and killed. And still today we have refer to sirens or the siren song. Idea that has lived on in our culture all this time. We're all vulnerable. But Odysseus plugged his men's ears so they wouldn't hear the songs and get into trouble. And he had them tie him to the mast so he would be unable to do anything if he heard the songs, but he wanted to hear what they sounded like. So Odysseus heard the siren songs, while his men did not, but they were able to successfully get past them. And after that they had the challenge of Scylla and Charybdis. Scylla was this six-headed monster. We're skirting along the Isle of Lesbos here. It'd be worth a stop. We'll just keep sailing for now. Could be worth a stop. We'll just keep sailing for now. And Charybdis was a giant whirlpool. And basically, trying to dodge one, you would end up in the other. But Odysseus was able to navigate it. Odysseus was able to chart a course between, I'm pretty sure he lost a number of men to Scylla, who devoured them, but they dodged the whirlpool and saved the ship. I believe it was a sacrifice of one man to each head of the monster. 6 men, 6 heads. Price you have to pay sometimes. So they then stopped a place where the sun god Helios kept his cattle, and Odysseus' men, poor impulse control again, so they ate the cattle, and the sun god complained to Zeus, who then sent down a thunderbolt which destroyed Odysseus' ship, killed all of his crew, and Odysseus was on his own, clinging to the wreckage, and ultimately he washed up on an island and met the sea nymph Calypso. And he ended up living with her for several years. And she really wanted him to stay, hang around, and be together, but Odysseus resisted and headed home to his wife once more. Hang a left, cut down towards Lemnos. Beautiful green colors on the ocean here. But of course it would not be that simple. And I hate to say it, but he was involved in another shipwreck. Not very lucky on the sea, or was it? Divine intervention. But this time in the land of the Phaeacians, and the king there had a daughter, Nausicaa, and Athena kind of schemed to have Nausicaa and Odysseus meet. It led to some attraction, a lot of temptation along the way for Odysseus, and man had been away from home for a long time. So I think it was challenging, but finally in the end he resisted. So finally they were able to separate, and Odysseus did finally make it back to Ithaca. Yeah, I think I'm gonna kind of make my way past these peninsulas of Macedonia. Our navigation sorted out here. I've said it before, but the scale of the map always throws me. So Odysseus did make it home, and to his nightmare did find tons of dudes living in his house, eating his food and courting his wife. And Penelope, had been able to hold them off for so long. Son Telemachus was young, wasn't able to fight them all off. So, slow down our speed here for a minute. And check out the coast here. But Penelope finally said that whoever could string Odysseus's bow could marry her. I guess him being a strong dude and it being hard to string. And the suitors all tried and failed, but Odysseus, in disguise, was able to do so. And that's when Penelope realized it was him. And in classic fashion, a battle broke out, and Odysseus killed all of the men trying to take his wife from him. Real old school kind of party. And with that, he was able to be again with his wife Penelope, back home after many eventful years, which are now collected as a tale in the Odyssey. Alright, so that has brought us around the map. I've gone through a rough outline of the story of the Odyssey. We've ended up here, the other side of the map from where we've started. And I think I can wrap things up here. I hope you've enjoyed sailing with me. I love being out on the water in this game. Just Just the environments they create and the feel of it are really spectacular. And the Greek-style shanties they've come up with. Well, I will be planning to go see the Odyssey when I can. Challenging with a young child. Definitely let me know if you're watching it. And until next time, safe travels and